Flight boss, bitch. You know, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind of an Terry's Moon. I'm the Archangel URIEL, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now, this video is for all my what came first, the chicken or the egg head ass niggas. Goddamn it. But look, check this out. This is about to solve what came first, the chicken or the motherfucking egg. Now, here's the thing. This is going to lead us into the concept of knowing what came first. Because here's the thing, right? You have a lot of people that'll tell you that we come from the stars and we came from the planets and shit like that. But then in the same breath, they'll tell you that in a religious aspect, man is God. And then, or if you're getting into the conscious community, they'll tell you that the woman is God. So for the most part, this is being lost on each polar shift of the thing. But I done told y'all monkey asses, anytime you do 3 essence on whatever that you're looking at, you're able to see the essence out of something. You're able to see the space that you're in before you get lost on either polar shift or each opposite end. You see what I'm saying? Which is the masculine and the feminine. And you need to know man is a masculine version of a thought form and woman is a feminine version of a thought form. And based upon us swimming in those waters for so many eons, it manifested into the tissue that we see today. But we're going to get into that. You see what I'm saying? Because this is the what came first, the chicken or the egg concept that a lot of people get lost in. Now, here's the thing, right? Men and women cannot be God. You have to understand that. Because for the most part, every time you hear somebody start to explain that, that's why they start to jump into, they start to give infinite regress concepts to a man or a woman, or they end up start developing ideas on how everything came from a man first or how everything came from a woman first. Yeah, you need to understand that. Like I said, when we talk about religious aspects, religion came a little later. So religion is when the sun, the day of the Lord, aka when everyone start worshiping the sun, that it gave them that influence, gave them all the concept of paying more attention to the masculine energy. But before that, civilizations and humanity was worshiping the moon. So when civilizations was worshiping the moon and calculating the moon travel and receiving all the influences from the moon and coming up with time from that, then here's where you get the concept of the further back the civilization you go, the more you're going to see representations of female deities. But it's just moon worship. We was doing that first, and then when that second coming came and things of that nature, here's where Osiris and the Jesus and all these and Gilgamesh and all those kind of stories came from, aka humanity paying more attention to the masculine energy. So for the most part, it's almost like the conscious community is almost going backwards because they're going back to a more primitive state because they think it's more right than what came after that primitive state, which is the masculine energy when everybody start worshiping the sun. But first everybody was worshiping the moon. So don't ever get it fucked up. That's all what it is. That's it. That's all. If you want to say your God is a man in some way, shape, or form, that's worshiping the sun or the masculine energy in a totality. Whether you want to say it's the farther, the further away light, or if you want to say the woman is God, that's you worshiping the moon in some way, shape, or form, or worshiping the feminine thought form in some way, shape, or form. So you're more tapped into the emotions and feelings of the world and things of that nature, but you're stopping there. And in some way, shape, or form, you're lost on a polar shift. So you need to understand that we're all creating these things. Men and women are just shapes and forms and external representations that we create as spirits to represent ourselves. So that's what you need to understand. So neither of these can be God. And the moment that you start to call one of these gods, you're lost into the external realm and you're lost into the light, because that's what these are. These are forms of light. You see what I'm saying? And you have an Adam and you have an Eve. So for the most part, as a spirit, right? Here's how you know, because you will probably get lost into the physical world, right? And start leading into thinking that everything is based upon reproduction. Hold on one second. Oh yeah, sorry about that. I had to make sure I had enough time. Yeah, you'll start to fall short and think that you would think the world is based upon reproduction. So for the most part, that's you lost again into the external realm in some way, shape, or form. Because the more responsibility that you create within this world, the more that you're going to be drawn back into this world. Now, I'm not saying I love your kids or things of that nature, but what I'm actually saying is you need to make sure you're doing these things responsible, because you could be attracting certain spirits here that resonate with certain states of beings and desires that you are in, and these states of beings and desires that you are in are ways of the world. So you think the ways of the world and what you think is working, you think it's the right thing to do. This is what you're psyching up your chakras and mentalities with. So for the most part, the energies and the motherfucking spirits that you are attracting here is spirits that love this realm of reality and spirits that bring you in this reality, keep bringing you here, where we know damn well you could look up and see shapes and forms that's greater than you, materializing and creating way more shit than whatever you're participating at on as far as male and female down here. You see what I'm saying? We got actual representations down here of shapes and forms that's greater than the shape and form that you're actually looking at in front of you and creating things, and for you to say that one of the energies is more powerful than the other. You see what I'm saying? This is one of the reasons why once you start to take one side of the polar shift, you get into forms of infinite regress. And once you add an infinite regress concept to whatever that you're doing, you already lost. Because everything has a starting point. So I don't care whatever you want to call the starting point, but ain't nothing got an infinite regress. And to call that starting point something that manifested out of us going through the astral realm is already lostness. So to say that the starting point was a man or the starting point was a woman, you lost in the starting point. Your starting point started way after the point. Way after the fact, after already eons and constellations and shit. Yo, you don't got the starting point. And the furthest back you can go is just within this memory reality. That's the only reason you would even come up with that concept anyway. You see what I'm saying? To say man or woman is God in general, regardless of what the fuck you lost in as far as religion or consciousness and shit like that. And this channel ain't about getting lost in this motherfucker. So that's what this is about. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, you need to understand that these are so let's break it down why it's even like that in the first place. Now, all of us are spirits, right? Spirits, no thing, no shape and form. So your spirit is nothing. So your spirit is always trying to become something. So to become something, right, here's where you get the manifestations of what y'all look at as come, and what you look at as all things of the world. Things of the world. Things that have became something. So we created this attribute for it to interact in that way when we created masculine and feminine thought forms. So here's the thing, right? As spirits, before we even embodied ourselves and was aware of ourselves, we was in a state of being. Once you start to be aware of your state of being, you start to create states of awarenesses, and that's what creates temperament, temperature, and you're able to move and start to create what develops as gases, parasites, archives, bacteria, all the way down till you get into the material of fleshly fluids, all the way down till you get into the material which y'all want to call stars and consciousness and water and light. See, consciousness is way after the fact, but y'all starting to call the spirit that, and y'all just late. Y'all lost in a lot of different things. Your spirit is not your conscious. Your spirit, consciousness is light. Consciousness is information. God damn it. So you could say your physical body is a more denser version of your consciousness. Then you got your sons of God. You got your mentality and your feelings and your emotions. That's your consciousness. You created it, but it's external to your spirit. Your spirit is no thing. Once you lack imagination, lack thought forms, lack feelings, you have nothing. So you're just no thing. You're just in your space. You know what I'm saying? For the most part. And if you are in a body today, you have already been becoming something. But if you're still in a spiritual mentality of you not being nothing, you're going to feel like you have no purpose or nothing in whatever shape and form that you have. Whatever mentality you have, feeling, or whatever physical body you in, you still going to feel like you're nothing. That's another video. So y'all not understanding spiritual natures. That's what the fuck is wrong with y'all. But look, check this out. Like I said, when we start to talk about us creating these things as a spirit, on the real starting point, spirits is no gender. You know what I'm saying? It has no gender. And we create the genders. And based upon us manifesting this material realm that we are in now, whatever spirit choose to take, whatever representation that a spirit choose to take is just the energy that it resonate with at the moment. That's why you got spirits that's in female bodies, spirits that's in man bodies, spirits that's in motherfucker all the animals and the trees and things of that nature. Just based upon what we're resonating with to come back together to know the true space that we're in general, that we're just all spirits. You might have been here, you might be in a female body right now, and your previous life you was in a male body, whether you was in an animal, bug, or another human, or even a star. You have masculine and feminine versions of stars. But you need to know as a spirit, you created that circumstance in order for you to go into because you resonated with that energy. Now, for the most part, like I'm saying, check this out. Now, as a spirit, right, boom, we start to create a state of awareness, aka to be aware of our surroundings and to be aware of ourselves. So that's the first thought of yourself, right? Your appearance, your Lucifer, your Jesus, your sun, your solar plexus end up being your first light, right? That manifests slowly but surely into the ramifications of it. When it travels, the ramifications of it becomes your Merkaba, your ghost, and that'd be like your moonlight, but less than your feminine energy. But before we get there, this is like you creating a fire, a potential. Then once you put it out, once it moves a little bit, it becomes a thing of the past and becomes a water. Now that creates a circle. So for the most part, that's your state of awareness, your light, your halo. That's now a representation of the state of being that you are in as a spirit doing that anyway, right? So keep this in mind. Once you create that mind field, you know what I'm saying? Now, that's the first thought you create about yourself, and you can do this now because you're already multitudes of thoughts and cells and shit like that, but it's streams. But for the most part, you can do this right now. Create a thought. That first thought, right? Once it moves, that fire turns into water. So now it turns into a container. It's how we create the feminine energy. Now, any thought you add on to that first thought becomes the masculine version. And those many thoughts going into that thought give that thought life. You're adding ideas and ramifications and circumstances and situations to that thought. Now, that first thought play out as feminine because now it's acting as a container to all the other thoughts that you're putting into it. The second comings, the masculines, the solar plexuses. See what I'm saying? The Lucifers, those are second comings. You're adding ideas to that space. So that first thought becomes a womb. That first fire becomes water, something that can hold life, and it becomes a womb, a container. Then all the other thoughts are many versions of that, many fires to become more of that. And here's where you get air and earth starting to solidify. So off the bat, boom, you created that feminine energy and that masculine energy. This is why it plays out as simultaneously. This is why y'all don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. Because that first thought, yeah, anytime you push out something externally, it's like masculine, but once it concedes, right, it becomes feminine, right? And anything that came after it will be a smaller version of what that did first. So for the most part, here's why y'all even get lost into the concept of thinking that the female is God. You see what I'm saying? Because of that energy is so powerful. But the receiving energy, the ability to contain something, the ability to hold into something. But really, a female as the physical body, a spirit that's in these bodies just got certain organs that's more containers than the spirits that jump into masculine bodies. This is why it doesn't even have to be from children. It could be from estrogens and shit like that. AKA those hormones, genetics are more sufficient for containing things than pushing off things. And the male may have more shit in him and testosterone and shit like that that's more suitable for pushing off things than containing things. This is why a female can hold hair on top of her head a lot longer than a male. See, it doesn't have anything to do with females. It doesn't have anything to do with actual children and bringing shit in the world. This is something different. But this is what we created. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, we created that concept. Then once we created that concept for us to create a container and us to create a bunch of other thought forms to go into that container, it manifests into however we was vibing, it manifests into the shape and form of how we seen it. And then that becomes the energy, the consciousness, the physical trait of it, right? You see what I'm saying? And then once we created that container, that becomes into, in all levels of existences, we created that example on how to manifest and reproduce things. When we create a container and things to go in the container. Now the container slowly but surely manifested in what we see today as a bunch of feminine physical organs and things of that nature. And then the second coming is what we see as a bunch of the masculine representations that we see coming, that we see in this world. But that's it. That's all. The moment you start to say one of these are gods, then you are lost. You're lost into the external realm. You forgot that you was the creator, not the creation. So you got lost into the creation. And since you got lost into the creation, you forgot everything you created because you don't believe you created these things. So now you're in your whole life trying to place the blame on what created everything in front of you because you forgot that you was the person creating everything that you're manifesting in front of your face in the first place. You see what I'm saying? So you lost your science, and then it turns into left brain, having to be more logical, having to be more rational, having to need more understanding, having to need more routine and pattern, and being comfortable to understand something is going to do the same thing that it did yesterday that's going to do today. And then that's where you extract all your wisdom and knowledge and your meanings and reasonings from, and therefore all your wisdom and knowledge and meanings and reasonings is based on the external realm. It's based on the third dimensional realm. It's based on the realm down here. So for the most part, you're going to be lost into concepts of thinking that God is man or God is woman, not knowing that God is your goddamn spirit. God is your El. You see what I'm saying? You are a God. You see what I'm saying? And for the most part, you create a representation to express yourself through. So we got masculine representations and we got feminine representations to express ourselves through. And we created the concept of what both of these things do in order to come together to accumulate. But don't get lost for one goddamn second into one of these goddamn things. And learn how to retract and understand that you're no thing as a goddamn spirit. And you're able to sit back and utilize these things for what they worth. And then you will truly understand that it doesn't matter which shape and form and vehicle that you're utilizing at the moment. If it's more percentage on the masculine or more percentage of the feminine energy. You'll be able to tap into the full maximum percentage level of the feminine and the masculine within you. And actually bring these within so you don't get lost into the reptilian part on the left, or you don't get lost into the yin part, onto the shapeless and formless ghostly part, and therefore you center it where all the gray area beings at, aka where things start to get cloudy, and you start to understand how to decipher between black and white in the gray area, and not just be in a situation where it's only black and white. man or woman. You know what I'm saying? You be in an area where it's gray, where you understand things are starting to get cloudy and things of that nature. Then once you get sufficient in that area, then motherfucker, you outweigh the balance of the motherfucking universe, aka the universe needs you for a sense of balance. Based upon if it's spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or even to play out as a representation down here physically. In some way, shape, or form, God, the actual gods and universes will be able to act as an attribute or a characteristic through you, because as you being a spirit, you'll be the only spirit in that space that's riding those high waters, that's open enough to receive that kind of information that a person down here wouldn't even never be able to receive, because the state of being that they're in is how you travel in the esoteric realm. Y'all can go to my video, how to travel in the yin realm. It's not, you can move up, down, left, right, but that got manifested down here physically. Yin, but it came from what you're already doing spiritually. If you want to move forward, you got to feel like you're accomplishing or getting ahead. If you want to move backwards, you got to feel like you regret or left something behind. If you want to move down, you got to feel depressed or feel like you got a whole bunch of the world on your shoulders, or weight or chip on your shoulder about something. If you want to move up, you got to feel optimistic and things of that nature. If you want to move right, you got to do something that's rightfully for you. Sometimes that means moving left from someone else. And if you want to move left, that means being opposing. That means being opposing, aka if you're in a space that don't agree with you, you have to be motherfucker opposing. So that means you're doing something rightfully for you, but you're moving left because everything is in a motherfucker reverse in the esoteric realm. So for the most part, based upon the state of being and the shit that y'all be lost into in the third dimension, it make y'all feel certain ways. So in the esoteric realm, y'all only traveling down here. Y'all don't know how to travel in places where it's new information and new knowledge at. Based upon this video right here is a prime example of what I just did. See what I'm saying? But yeah, we're going to go live tonight. We're going to get real deep in this motherfucker, because we're going to talk about motherfucking Capricorn. Men lie, women lie, and motherfucking numbers do too. But the goddamn stars don't. So if you know how to calculate the stars, a motherfucker, you will know what's today. You won't be lost into men lie, women lie, and numbers do too, because they be manipulating numbers. You don't know what day it is. You don't know if we in 2,000 years or 3,000 years. You don't know what actual time it is on the goddamn schedule. But if your monkey ass knew the goddamn stars, I bet you know where you're at. I bet you know what season it is. I bet you know where. Goddamn it, men lie, women lie, motherfucking numbers do too. Goddamn it, but the stars don't. Goddamn it, Flame Boss. He love y'all.